And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well, is there?
I just said no. I just answered. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, in an about face, President Joe Biden has pardoned his son. That's after repeatedly saying he trusted the process that found his son Hunter guilty on federal tax and gun charges. North Central College political science professor Stephen Caliendo joins us this morning. Hope you had a great holiday weekend, Professor.
You too, Natalie. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you as always. Did this come as a surprise to you?
It did. There's no question, and only because he was so clear about it when he answered the question, and of course, his press secretary had answered the question clearly as well. And so it was a bit of a surprise. Now, had they not been asked that question, had they not answered it, I wouldn't be surprised at all. These are the kind of pardons that we've become used to seeing at the end of a president's term.
And Professor, Hunter Biden was charged by his father's Department of Justice and then convicted by a jury of his peers. Yet the president said the process had been politicized. This has a lot of people scratching their heads this morning.
Yeah, and I can understand why. I mean, I think what the president was referring to there is the fact that there was a deal that was on the table. You may remember this last year. There was a deal on the table. There was a plea bargain. And then there was some political uproar. It really wasn't a legal uproar. It was political uproar, mostly from Republicans, saying that he was getting special treatment because he was the president's son. And so they reversed course on that plea bargain, went forward with a trial, and that's what resulted in. And I think what the president would say is that ordinary people typically don't get charged with these kinds of things or don't get charged at this level with these kinds of offenses. And so I think that's what he's referring to.
Is there a history of presidents pardoning family members?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's happened. George Clinton, the half-brother of President Bill Clinton, was pardoned on federal charges as Bill Clinton was leaving office in the 1990s. And so that's happened before. The presidential power, it's always one. Every time it happens, you and I will sit down and talk and say, what in the world are we doing here? I mean, there was a jury of their peers, and these are important charges. And it's very strange. It's a strange power that the president has. It was controversial at the time it was adopted, at the time of the Constitution, and it's still controversial today.
Now, to that point, too, I believe that Bill Clinton's brother had already served his sentence, which in this case, Hunter has yet to be sentenced. In the pardon, Hunter was granted blanket immunity, meaning he is immune from crimes he hasn't even been charged with yet. Why might the president have granted this type of immunity?
Well, I think what the president's seeing is the president-elect trying to build an administration that's certainly designed to, at least in part, go after political opponents. He's appointing people who have been very clear that if they had access to power, they would go after the opponents of President Trump. And so I think there's concern here that there will be continued prosecution of Hunter Biden if this blanket pardon was not given.
Professor Stephen Caliendo, thanks again for your time this morning.
It's great to see you, Natalie.
Good to see you, too. Happy holidays.